Hola, mi clase. We are going to do our notes for lessons 4 through 6 of Unit 1. It's where I can describe and determine the coordinates of a transformed image after a translation, reflection, or rotation. So lift up that flap. Let's get these vocab terms written down. So correspond is to match. So this is where we've been talking about that copy, where A and A prime go together. They are corresponding, right? So it's when part of an original figure matches up with a copy. Now remember, our original figure is our pre-image, and our pre-image is the name of a figure before any transformations are performed. And then remember, our copy is that image. So an image is a new figure that is created after a transformation of an original figure called the pre-image. We learned about prime notation. That's using the prime symbol. That's at our little apostrophe or tick mark to name points in an image that correspond to points in the pre-image. And just a reminder, origin. The origin is the point 0, 0 on the coordinate plane. This is where the x-axis and the y-axis intersect. All right, so let's work on these first couple of problems. So we're going to rotate this figure 90 degrees counterclockwise. So, right, that's going to make it go that way. We're going to go around point P. So point P is going to stay where it is. Because of that, we can label this as P prime so that it signifies that it is part of the pre-image and the image. They correspond. So we can kind of make our own like axes or coordinate grid, right? So I can pretend now that P is the origin. Remember, everything needs to match or correspond. So if the length of the top is 4, it still needs to be 4, but it's going to be kind of in this space over here. So I'm going to erase my arrow and my squiggly mark. So it is 4. So I know it needs to make a 90-degree angle because it says 90 degrees. We know that all these corners make 90. So if I know it's going from left to right, I can then go 1, 2, 3, 4 down, and then this point and this point will correspond. And I can then connect P with that point. Now, I'm going to change my color. Let's look at this point. So again, the same thing needs to happen. It needs to swing from left to right. I can see that it's 1 here and 2 here. It needs to be the same, but in this corner. So we're going to go 1 and then 1, 2 and connect them. And you can see now they're at the same distance. They match. Everything is okay. And now I know the bottom is 4, so I have to make this other side length 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Right, so now these correspond. And then I can just connect. And there's my 90-degree angle. Okay, so let's do our reflection. So when we reflect over a line, any line, remember they need to go over it. So if it's on the left, it's going to go to the right, and everything's going to be the same distance. That's what we've been talking about as well, right? That's that matching part. So if E is 1 away from the line, it's going to, E prime will end up 1 away, but on the other side. Right? And D is 1 away, so D is going to be right here. We can also think of this as a y-axis reflection where only the x changes, right, to its opposite. So that makes sense too. We can almost say that D was at -1, and so its opposite is +1. Okay, I can keep doing that. So C is 3 away. So C prime is 3 away. B is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 away. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the opposite direction. And then A is 1, 2, 3, 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And that is how the reflection over M would look. All right. So these are some review questions, our spiral review. Wanted to go over these just because they are fractions and decimals, and so I just want to remind you how to compare these things. So with the fractions, I know they're opposite signs, so clearly we can just look at the signs, and a positive is always going to be greater than a negative. But I do just want to remind you that if they are the same sign, remember that we need to find common denominators to then be able to compare them. So I'm multiplying by a common number to create that common denominator. So now they both have a denominator of 6. If they were the same sign, this is how I would want to compare them. But clearly we have a negative and a positive is always greater than a negative. So for number 4, we have a number with a decimal. We have a number without a decimal. So the way to compare them is to make sure that they have the same decimal places. And then we compare each number. So the first number is the same. So we could not decide which one was greater than or less than. This second number is also the same. So again, we cannot compare which one is greater than or less than. So we would have to look at the third number. And since in this case they're negative, and owing somebody a penny and not owing anybody a penny, we would then say that -8 is of course greater than -8 1/100. And last but not least, number 5, these are in different forms. So we need to change the form. And since I know most of us like decimals better than fractions, so I'm going to change 10/4 into a decimal, and we would just need to divide because that's what this symbol means, right? This is division. So 4 goes into 10 2 times, 2 left over, add a decimal, bring down our 0, make sure your decimal goes to the top, and 4 goes into 25 times. They're both negative, and they're both 2.5. So that is why this one was equal to. All right, back to some transformations. So this was on your guys' homework, and the biggest issue we had was forgetting to plot them and label them. We did a great job of putting them in here, but we forgot to plot them. I do want to add what we talked about yesterday, which was with translations, right and up, we can do some adding and subtracting. So A is at -6, 5. So remember, 4 units to the right means I add to X, and 1 unit up means I can add to the Y. And so we can say A prime is -2, 6. Okay, and even if I count, right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, you can see I end up at -2, 6. But we can use those tools that we had last time or learned about last time that we can just add or subtract. So I'm going to do the same thing, right? So B is at 3, 2. So add 4, add 1, and that makes B prime at 7, 3. And so I go to 7, 3, and label it B prime. And then I fill it in here. And last but not least, put C down here. C is at 0, -1. So add 4, add 1, and that's how we get C prime at 4, 0. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 0. Nice. Alrighty, we're doing good. So here's some test practice. These are going to be really good to study for any quizzes or tests we take because these are the types of questions you're going to see. So figure W, X, Y, Z was transformed to create W prime, X prime, Y prime, Z prime. which transformation took place. So first one is reflect over this line. Well, if I reflect over this line, all the points would go like this, straight down, and you can see that does not match, so it's definitely not A. Some little arrows. And then I translate 6 units down and 4 units to the right. So if I just take W and go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, yeah, I get to a dot, but it's X prime and not W. And remember, they need to correspond or match, and it definitely doesn't match. So that's why it is not B. A rotation of 90 degrees clockwise around Y would mean, here's Y, right? So this is kind of our origin. If I go clockwise like a clock, it means it's going to end up in this corner, and it clearly does not end up in that corner. So that is another reason why it is not C. And then a rotation of 180 clockwise around point Y. So clockwise is the same direction as the last one, but with 180, it goes 2 corners. And so we can see that it does match there. All right, we got 2 left. Here we go. So point H53 is translated 4 down and 3 units to the left to get point H prime. Which of the following are the coordinates of point H prime? So we're going to use those little rules that we learned, right? So if it's 5, 3, and I'm going 4 down, that's 4 down is on the Y. See, even I almost made that mistake. It's on the Y. So I'm going to minus 4, and then 3 to the left is minus 3 here. And that would then tell me that H prime, so 5 minus 3 is 2, and 3 minus 4 is -1. That would tell me that's the answer. All righty. And then 0.53 is rotated 90 degrees counterclockwise around the origin, and the image is labeled point P prime. Which of the following are the coordinates of point P prime? So what we can do is kind of just make our own coordinate grid. We know that 5, 3 is here. Okay, so this is P. If I'm going 90 degrees counterclockwise is against a clock. So that means it's going to end up over here. Well, if I go plot 1, -3, that's right here. So can't be A. If I plot -3, 5, -5, sorry, that's right here. So can't be that one. And then if I go plot 3, -5, that's right here. So it can't be that one. And just to check it, right, quick little check, -3, +5 does get me in the quadrant I needed or in the space I needed. So that's the other reason it is letter D. All right, until next time, adios.